Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
A magic beyond anything you could ever imagine.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Sagrera Farms on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Locking down the middle of the day.
You really think that's the best idea?
Live from the Raising Cane studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
It's quite a piece of work.
Hour 2, Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. Luke Johnson talking Saints 30 minutes from right now. We'll talk Saints and Patriots. We'll talk whether or not they should trade Rashid Shaheed. We'll talk some injuries. What about Chase Young coming back? That'll all come up your way at 2:30. Tyler Head from 107.5 The Game in Columbia, South Carolina is going to be here in 15 minutes talking about things from the South Carolina perspective. Shane Beamer's program coming off a bye. Also got a win against Kentucky 2 weeks ago. I would suggest if you're an LSU fan that's got 11 minutes to kill, 14 minutes to kill, and you're feeling a little apprehensive about this game with South Carolina, watch the highlights of the Kentucky. Kentucky, there's only 16 spots in the power rankings. If I could slide them down to 20 on principle, I would do that. They are so awful in every aspect of the game, and they were a comedy of errors in the game against South Carolina. I couldn't believe my eyes watching that highlight tape. So we'll talk about Kentucky. We will not talk about Kentucky. We'll talk about South Carolina with Tyler Head coming up at 2:15. This segment I'm going to do is not going to give you any brand new information. I'm not going to turn a light bulb off in your head that makes you go, I never thought of that. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to break any news here. I'm just going to talk about something that makes a lot of sense to me. Okay? And we'll see if it comes to fruition or not, but this makes a lot of sense to me. LSU's passing game is not humming at the rate we thought it would after a month. Garrett Nussmeier is completing 67% of his throws. He's throwing for 230 yards per game and 7 touchdowns. If you've followed a lot of the statistics that are floating around on the internet, last year at this time he was throwing for 330 a game. He had 15 touchdowns. It's just not what we thought it would be. And that's been tough for me to completely put together because I don't know what the ab strain impact is. I don't know whether or not the play calls are good enough. I don't know how badly they are missing a true number one wide receiver as opposed to the 5 really good wide receivers they had. If you want the alpha, the guy out there, and they don't really have that. I don't know if it's been. I think it's a combination of everything. But I know this. I know that LSU's got to throw the ball better to be a better football team. Like, they're not going to reach anything close to their ceiling if they're throwing for 230 a game and a touchdown and a quarter. Like, they need to throw for 295, 310 a game, and they need to throw for a couple of touchdowns a game. When they were at their best, that's what they were doing last year. And that needs to come back. So the question I asked myself today, I sat down at my desk and I go, what's my best suggestion for getting the passing game cooking? And this is not a cure of everything, but it makes a lot of sense to me. Throw the ball to Trey'Dez Green. Throw the ball to Trey'Dez Green. Here's why I say that. Trey'Dez Green, as you all well know, is a matchup nightmare. Trey'Dez Green is 6'7" and can jump probably as well as any of the wide receivers on that roster. He's got go-go gadget arms. There is no defensive player in college football that boasts the physical gifts that Trey'Dez Green has. They don't exist. They don't play defense in college football. They play small forward in the SEC. They don't play strong safety. They don't play outside linebacker. They don't play nickelback. And last year, when Mason Taylor, who was a huge piece to the offense, huge piece, moved on pre-bowl game. He opted out, became second-round pick of the Jets. Trey'Dez Green had to play a lot in the bowl game because Kamorian Pimpton opted out and he went in the transfer portal, and you're kind of looking around and going, well, Trey'Dez, you're kind of it. So he goes out there against Baylor and scores 2 touchdowns. 2. And then you come back in fall camp, and we're out there. We get so much access. It's awesome. We're able to watch so much of so many practices. They cannot cover this guy. They can't cover him. I've got enough information now as we sit here, as we get toward the middle of October, and I know that LSU defense is pretty damn good. They could not cover Trey'Dez Green. Red zone periods, touchdowns. One-on-one periods, catches. Harold Perkins on him, touchdowns. Tamarcus Cooley on him, touchdowns. A.J. Halsey, touchdowns. West Weeks, receptions. They couldn't cover him. And then you go to the first game of the year, and you're playing Clemson. You didn't do a lot on offense in that game. Defense was awesome. Offense was kind of pedestrian. Who scored a receiving touchdown for you in that game? Trey'Dez Green. Who was that on? Their best cover guy, Avion Terrell. Went up one-on-one, caught it. What about one of the other touchdowns you scored? The other touchdown you scored. Well, that was a rushing touchdown, Hunt. Trey'Dez Green didn't score that one. Yes, how'd they get there? Pass interference on the defense, ball be spotted at the 2, touchdown. Both touchdowns, Trey'Dez Green. So, throwing the ball. I know he didn't play after he got hurt. Got rolled up in the Tech game. I know. Wasn't available for you against Florida. Wasn't available for you against Southeastern. First game back against Ole Miss. I got it. I understand. But now he's had a bye week. We know he's healthy. Throwing the ball. And this is not one of those deals like I'm not telling the Les Miles offense, hey, throw it to the tight end. You would have to completely change the entire offense to do that because you never threw it to the tight end. Last year, you threw it to the tight end a lot. In fact, the guy who played tight end last year had the most catches of any tight end in the history of the school. So this is not something that requires Garrett Nussmeier to throw it 50 yards down the field. It's not something that requires an entirely new page in the playbook because you haven't done this previously. It just requires you to feature a guy. And it's not common outside of Kansas City. I guess that's Missouri, not Kansas. It's not common outside of Kansas City, Missouri, to feature the tight end in offense. They did that in Foxborough as well. Kelsey and Gronk, tough matchups for NFL players. Trey'Dez Green, tough matchup. I'm not trying to put him in the NFL Hall of Fame where Gronk's headed and Kelsey's headed. I'm not trying to tell you Garrett Nussmeier's Mahomes or Brady. But I'm telling you is you can feature a tight end. And if you don't have a number 1 wide receiver and your passing game's struggling and you're having trouble getting the ball down the field, well, here's a 6'7" guy that the linebackers can't run with, that the safeties can't jump with, and that you have pages and plays in your playbook theoretically designed for. Throw him the ball. I'm not suggesting he needs 14 targets on Saturday. I need 14 targets for Jamar Chase. Like, I need that. I don't for Trey'Dez Green. How about 9? Third downs. You're not as good on third down as you were last year. Feature the tight end a little bit better. Red zone. Had some issues in the red zone. Tight end. First down. I've seen this play. They got tight end screens. They've got formations to get Trey'Dez one-on-one in the red zone, which they used at Clemson. They've got some stuff at their disposal to give him the football. This is someone that should be featured. This is someone I think that can make a significant difference. I understand the injury, but right now he's got 2 catches for 17 yards. I think this guy's got to be used more. This makes sense to me. Again, I'm not telling you anything you don't know. You know he's huge. You know he can jump. You know he played basketball. You know about the dunk at Tuscaloosa. You know about the touchdown against Clemson. You remember when he was a recruit? He's a 5-star, number 1 tight end in the country. You know all that stuff. I'm not breaking any news here. But when I look at the stat sheet and I'm looking at more catches for Caleb Jackson and Donovan Green than Trey'Dez Green, I'm going, well, we can change that. He's healthy now. Get him involved. I think that's something that can be a benefit to Garrett Nussmeier, to this offense, to this football team. Trey'Dez Green is one of your most gifted players. Utilize it. That, to me, makes all the sense in the world. We'll see what LSU can do coming up on Saturday night in Death Valley. They got to get the offense humming one way or another. They'll play the South Carolina Gamecocks, who will fly in from Columbia tomorrow. High intrigue season for this South Carolina team. Lose two pretty quickly, now trying to right the ship during a brutal part of the schedule. We'll talk about all that with Tyler Head from 107.5 The Game in Columbia when we come back.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge. GenesisofBatonRouge.com is that website. They just make life so much easier on you. How about valet complimentary maintenance? They'll do that for you for 3 years at Genesis of Baton Rouge. You purchase that vehicle, I got to get the oil changed. See it on the sticker. It's got to happen. Well, no big deal. You just call them. Say, hey, I got to get the oil changed. They come get your car, bring it to the dealership. They leave you a loaner. You get on about your day. And then when that oil change is done, when those air filters have been changed, when you've got that wiper fluid in, they'll drive it right back to you. Good as new. Doesn't cost you anything. Doesn't change your day one bit. That's part of the convenience of a luxury brand and a luxury experience at Genesis of Baton Rouge. You can start that Genesis process, if you'd like, by renting a vehicle. If you've got a road trip coming up, you're headed to Nashville to see the Tigers play against Vanderbilt, headed to Tuscaloosa next month to see LSU play Alabama, and you don't want to put those miles on your car, rent one from the folks at Genesis. That'll be probably your first time behind the wheel of a Genesis, and you might love what you drive. I got a sense that might happen. Call them about rental. It's Genesis of Baton Rouge. They're airline at Pico across the street from Women's Hospital. It's Genesis of Baton Rouge. You can find them online at GenesisofBatonRouge.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
Conversations with folks from the Palmetto State back in August. Round one of LSU's South Carolina swing was a positive when LSU beat Clemson in the opener. Now trying to sweep the state with the South Carolina Gamecocks coming into Tiger Stadium on Saturday night in Death Valley. Tyler Head talks about those Gamecocks in Columbia. He's with 107.5 The Game. Good enough to give us a little time here on this Thursday. He's with us on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Tyler, thanks for the time. How are you?
Yeah, man, absolutely. Appreciate you doing the call-in on my show earlier, and happy to be returning the favor.
It's good to have you. Let's chat about this Gamecock team. I like to ask this question first. Give me a vibe check in Columbia. I know last year was really strong, kind of out of nowhere, and the expectations were high in August for this team. What's the feeling around that program with the fan base right now?
I'd say it's kind of teetering a little bit, and you're right. This past off season was so much fun having a team that was so talked about, so relevant, appearing on this list, and Sellers being talked about with the Heisman Trophy and being a first-round draft pick, something that just Carolina hasn't experienced a lot over the years. So that was a lot of fun. It built up to what we thought was going to be a really fun season. And the way the first 5 games looked on the schedule, it looks very manageable. Yeah, you had a tough trip to Missouri. That's always tricky, a place that's been a house of horrors for the Gamecocks over the years. But you saw a feasible path to maybe start 4-1 and be ranked somewhere in the top 20 probably by the time the trip to Baton Rouge came around. It just has not gone that way. The defense has been fine, been okay. Some games better than others, but the offense has just been unexpectedly bad, right? You're struggling to score 20 points a game. You have no running game. Sellers hasn't looked like himself. There's a lot of reasons for that, but you have a fan base right now that went from thinking you were seriously going to be in the mix for the college football playoff once again to now hoping, when you look at the schedule, starting with LSU this upcoming weekend, hoping to win 6 games to get to a bowl. So it's shifted pretty quickly. And if they go into Baton Rouge and lose on Saturday and fall to 3-3 and 1-2 in conference play, it's going to be some bad vibes for the next couple weeks going forward.
Let's talk about the offense because, as you mentioned, Laura Sellers came in with so much hype. There were some that figured he could be the top pick in the NFL draft, and they just haven't been able to score. What is the biggest problem for South Carolina offensively?
I think it's almost kind of a hesitancy with him when it comes to taking off and running. And we knew last year when Dow Loggins took the Appalachian State head coaching job and Mike Shula became the OC after being his quarterback coach a season ago, there was going to be more emphasis this offseason and put on making him a better passer, which there's nothing wrong with that. Sellers had his ups and downs in the passing game a year ago, and refining him there is fine. But what we've seen through the first couple games is almost like a overthinking, right? What made Sellers so special a year ago is when the play broke down, he'd take off and run. And sometimes that would involve dumping an edge rusher over his shoulders and making a spectacular play where he skirts up the sidelines for 25 or 30 yards. And he has done that a little bit this year, but not the same way. It's almost like he's thinking about it too much, trying to stay in the pocket, and he's eating some pretty ugly sacks. I go back to the Missouri game where they had a first and goal on the 2-yard line, and he immediately gets sacked for a loss of like 13 on that next play. Like things he just wasn't doing a year ago, where it feels like he's overthinking it. And look, defenses are scheming to prevent him from hurting with their legs. That Missouri game, they routinely had, two linebackers spying him to make sure he wasn't going to take off and run. But we have an athlete that special, even when defenses are trying to stop you, you can still make plays happen. And it's almost like he's not confident in that ability anymore, or he doesn't want to lean on that too much. And that's something we're still trying to figure out. It's clearly a problem, and we don't know what's being said behind closed doors with Coach Beamer and Mike Shula. But if you can unlock that same Sellers from a season ago, you would feel a whole lot better about this offense because you have nothing going on your ground game with running backs right now. And you look back at that Missouri game, and the only reason why Carolina was in it because Sellers was able to throw the ball pretty effectively down the field. And I'm assuming that's going to be a big key for tomorrow night as well, or Saturday night as well.
You mentioned the ground game. Not to harp on the negative here, I do want to get to the non-offensive touchdowns that they continue to rack up. But you're missing Rocket Sanders there from that backfield as far as running back goes. The offensive line, it doesn't appear, has replaced Torricelli Simpkins, who's playing down the road for the Saints as well. Like, what does that running game look like, and has there been any point where they've been effective?
They've tried a multitude of things, and you'll probably see this on Saturday. Mike Shula is not afraid to try and run the ball up the middle. It's not been effective, but that's going to be a part of the game plan on Saturday, whether it works or not. And, Rocket Sanders came in and did a great job last year. And look, we knew what he was coming over from Arkansas. We'd seen him be productive in the SEC before. And the big thing this offseason was Rasul Faison coming in from Utah State, had a 1,000-yard season last year. And then we waited for his eligibility to get cleared. Happened right before the Virginia Tech game, so it's like, okay, he's ready to go. Now let's see him go out there and rip off some good runs. And he had a crazy good run against Virginia Tech where he had to make a guy miss in the backfield and ran for 34 yards. So it's like, okay, now we're getting something here, but hasn't really done much since then. And these last couple of weeks, they've really been rotating guys. So him, Oscar Attaway, who was here a season ago after transferring from North Texas, Matthew Fuller, who's a second-year guy, got a bulk of the carries against Kentucky, and when you look at his numbers, they look fine, but the majority of those runs and yards came in the final drive, and they were just running out the clock. So nobody's really stepped up and taken that RB1 role. Isaiah Augusta transferred in from Colorado. We really haven't seen him since the first game of the season. So you just don't have an identity with your running backs as of right now that you can lean on to at least even make like something like play action, fool the defense enough to really keep them on their toes to where you can make some plays happen through the pass game. And again, Shula's going to run the ball up the middle, or he's going to try to, but I don't know many defenses that are afraid of what the offense is going to do on the ground. And it doesn't help that you're having injuries pile up on the offensive line. I'm sure you saw last night's availability report where one offensive lineman's out and two others are on the doubtful part of it right now. Yeah. And that improved because you're starting to really rotate through different guys up front. And, even with your original starting five, you weren't getting a good push up there. And we're all very aware of how good that LSU defense is against the run, and I don't see this as a game where they suddenly break out and figure something out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. Tyler Head's our guest, 107.5 The Game in Columbia, South Carolina. Let's talk about the Gamecock defense, as that was a tenacious group, especially up front last year. I still recall just how badly they whipped Texas A&M at the point of attack, really for 4 quarters in that game in Columbia. Dylan Stewart's back, and I talked about him in the first hour, but is that front still a quality unit?
is good. It's not as experienced as it was a year ago. And, you look at all the guys that got drafted, half of them off that defense, with most of them coming from that front seven. You knew you were going to lose some quality there because those guys have played a lot of football, between the ones that have been in Carolina for a long time and guys like Kennard that, transferred in and had a phenomenal season. They're still trying to get their feet under them a little bit. They had a bad 2 weeks against, Vanderbilt, Missouri, missed a lot of tackles and letting up a lot of yards on the ground. The secondary's been pretty solid. Judge Collier, one of your main starting corners, has been on the injury list. It was once again last night. We're hoping he's going to be coming back on Saturday. Full go is Braden C's done a fine job on the other side of the field when it comes to playing that quarterback spot. But they've been okay, and I think the last game against Kentucky, they did a great job. And you don't know if that's fool's gold by playing a really bad team, or if that's a sign of things to come turning in the right direction. And again, you got a very talented offense there at LSU that I know is not lived up to the standards that people were hoping so far. But we're hoping that Carolina's defense is starting to turn in the right direction as you get in the middle part of the season, because you have a lot of talent, have a lot of capable guys that are replacing a lot of production from a year ago. And again, it's still kind of in that not confident enough, but feeling okay about it right now.
Feels like there's been a lot of really quality special teams play for South Carolina, scoring touchdowns, blocking kicks, that kind of stuff. Do you feel like if South Carolina is going to come here and win, that they probably need to make a game-changing play in that phase?
Yeah, whether it be some returns on defense, like a kick six, or a fumble recovery for a touchdown, or having some of those special team scores. I think that's going to be a big key if Carolina's going to go in and win this game on Saturday night. And Bakari Swain came out of the games red hot with those 3-punt return touchdowns in the first 2 weeks, and that's a lot to ask for. But if anything, being able to flip field position, I know you guys got a really good punter, so that's going to be a problem there. And Nick Harbor returning kicks is almost broken off a couple this year, save for a few blocks that didn't get made, around midfield. So you feel like he's kind of bursting at the seam to be able to break out and make something happen in the return game. But, yes, I very much think those non-offensive scores and big plays are going to be a big key if Carolina's going to go in there and win this game against LSU on Saturday.
Tyler, we appreciate some time. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the football.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Thanks.
Tyler Head from 107.5 The Game in Columbia, South Carolina. As he mentioned, I went on with him earlier today, and obviously he returned the favor here, and we certainly appreciate that. It just feels like this South Carolina team is struggling. Like they're just struggling on offense to find much of anything. They're coming into Tiger Stadium against a really, really good defense. The defense has been just okay, and as I mentioned earlier, if you're clinging to what you were able to do against Kentucky, that's a tough thing to cling to, and it just feels like South Carolina is stepping into a gauntlet here that just about nobody could maneuver. I mean, you're talking about a schedule for South Carolina coming up here that would be there is probably not a team in the country that could navigate this stretch unscathed. Like there have been years where nobody was going to beat Ohio State, nobody was going to beat Bama. They're about to play at number 11 LSU, home number 6 Oklahoma, home number 8 Alabama, at number 4 Ole Miss, at number 5 Texas A&M. That's 5 in a row against top 11 teams, 3 of them on the road. That's just very, very difficult way, especially when your team is not firing on all cylinders like South Carolina's really not. So we'll see. We'll talk more about it as we move forward, and we'll certainly get my pick on this game tomorrow as LSU and South Carolina inch closer to that Saturday night in Death Valley. Let's talk some Saints with Luke Johnson of NOLA.com and The Advocate next.
The Hunt Palmer Show. You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
Thursday shows brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. Let's talk some Saints and Patriots. To do that, we bring on Luke Johnson, wonderful, wonderful friend for 15 years, a man who dutifully served our great country, a man who does phenomenal work for NOLA.com and The Advocate, a man who has come on this show for 4 years, very, very graciously, and given wonderful information, and a man whose personal enjoyment and happiness I want to be at an all-time low for the next 8 hours, 9 hours. That is, of course, Luke Johnson. Wonderful man, as I mentioned, noted Brewers fan, which is big minus. How are we feeling?
Well, I feel terrible, of course. I thought about telling you to go kick rocks and I wouldn't come on your show today. I just don't know if I can deal with it, but like I'm going to power through and try to give some good insight on the Saints and Patriots matchup. But I really, really, really hope that you start looking forward to next baseball season tonight.
Gosh, it's likely you got your ace going. I have no pitching left, but it is at Wrigley, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah. You know, look, the Brewers have found just like new confounding ways to just like wreck my soul every year. So. I'm going to go ahead and congratulate you on your unlikely series win from now.
Appreciate that very much. We'll see. If it comes to Saturday, it comes to Saturday. Let's talk Saints and Patriots. Let's go with Chase Young first. What do you think, and how much could he help?
I think he'll play. He practiced again today, so that's all a good sign. I just don't know right away like how much he's going to be able to do. You know, like. If this injury never would have happened, I would have imagined he'd be playing like 75% of the snaps from week one. You know, but the fact is that he's missed 5 weeks. The two guys who've really filled in most of those pass rushing snaps in his absence, Carl Granderson and Cam Jordan, have played pretty well. In between them, they have 7 sacks. They might be able to look at Chase and be like, "We're going to bring you along slowly." I don't know. I would personally hope that he's able to come out there and contribute in a big way right away because like they need him. He is, I think, without question, their best pass rusher. I know Carl Granderson has good sack numbers this year, but I think Chase gives them just like a consistent effort on the pass rush side, and he can be a game changer for him if he's playing up to his ability in this defense.
Taysom Hill returned last week. Not a lot of production, but certainly was back there. And I kind of made the point on Monday. It's kind of a new staff learning what to do with him. What do you think his role is moving forward?
I think it's very similar to what we saw last week. And look, frankly, I was a little bit surprised they played him. I thought he didn't really look like himself in practice. And granted, we get like very small glimpses of practice. We get to see him stretch for about 10 minutes, and then we get like 7 minutes of individual work, then they kick us out. But yeah, I think it's just going to take some time for him to get back to like the Taysom Hill we're used to seeing. And maybe we'll never see it. I mean, he's 35 years old.
Yeah.
He is absolutely a freak of nature. But this is not just the serious ACL. Like that alone is enough to like sow a seed of doubt. But there's more to it than just the ACL. Like it was like every ligament that connected the outside of his knee was gone. So. I think that we'll see him a lot in these like quarterback roles, these wildcat roles. Maybe with Kellen Moore calling plays, we'll see a little bit more of him throwing the ball out of those looks than we saw in the past, which is like I think something that we all wanted to see more of, and not like a 95-5 split on the run pass, but maybe a little closer to 85-15. I think that makes a lot more sense. But I don't think we're going to see him like doing a lot of the stuff he did in the past where he's, out in the slot and playing a bunch of tight end and a little running back here or there. I think they're going to be a little bit more kind of calculated with how they use him and mainly in those like kind of quarterback type roles.
Is this one of those games that you feel a little bit differently about as it approaches than you did in August?
No, not really. I kind of thought that the Patriots would be definitely a much better team than they were last year. Year 2 of Drake May, I thought he was outstanding as a rookie, and he's clearly taken a jump this year. You've got kind of an adult in the room, and Mike Vrabel. They had like $150 million in cap space this year, and they used it. They signed Milton Williams, who's been tremendous in his start there, their defensive tackle from La Tech. They signed Harold Landry. It was kind of a panned move at the time, but he's been really good. They went out and got Will Campbell in the draft. They got Stephon Diggs. It's an ascending team. And the Saints, they got their first win last week, but I mean, the reality is they forced 5 turnovers and scored 6 offensive points off those turnovers. One of them was a defensive touchdown, but like their offense is still it's still not clicking the way you would really want it to. It's been better, I think, than a lot of people thought, but it's still not something that's going to like strike fear in opponents at this stage. So like going into this, I thought that was going to be a tough game, and I still think it's going to be a tough game. It's a talented young team with some good veterans and some proven coaching, and the Saints are, in the early stages of a rebuild. It's looked, I think, very positive so far, but it's like I still think that this is just a tough matchup for them.
Statistically, the Patriots are pretty good against the run and not as good against the pass. The Saints would prefer to run the ball, but they did throw it a little bit better, including that big throw to Shaheed last week. Like, do you think that they can move the ball a little bit more consistently through the air on Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think at some point this is just going to start to click for him a little bit. And I think we've seen Kellen just kind of evolve his offense as the season's progressed. Yeah, that first week, they were like 66-33 pass run. They were almost exclusively out of the shotgun. Yeah, they didn't do any play action. And I think we've seen them even last week when the Giants were like gearing up to stop the run because they were a terrible run defense and they knew the Saints were going to want to do it. I mean, they used that to their advantage to set up some of their passing stuff. So I just like their weapons are too good in this passing game for it to continue to just be like kind of just average. As long as Spencer keeps playing at the level he's at, like I think at some point it's going to click. It wouldn't surprise me if it's this weekend, but they're going to need to at least establish the run a little bit, at least the threat of it, and not let the Patriots kind of get them in these long third and 8, 3rd and 9 situations where they can kind of tee off with their pass rush.
It's that time of year where you start hearing about trades and trades start becoming executed. There was a report out of Pittsburgh today that potentially Rashid Shaheed is someone that the Steelers might look at. How do you weigh the current team with the future and what might look like at this trade deadline with the assets that the Saints have?
I'll believe that stuff when I see it. There was a report that Pittsburgh was interested in Chris Olave earlier this offseason. I think there's probably like a little bit of truth to that when you're looking at, okay, what's their realistic timeline to be a competitive football team? Where have the Saints devoted their assets? Just in the last 2 months, they have acquired a lot of receivers. They got Devon Bailey, they got Trey Palmer. Yeah, they got Jalen Polk, who won't help the team this year, but
right.
will help next year. So there is probably some kernels of truth to that, where they could be like, okay, if somebody offers something, we've got Rashid Shaheed in a contract year, we've got Chris Olave, who he's got the 5th-year option coming up, but what does a second contract realistically look like for him? Are these guys going to be at their prime when we are hitting our stride and ascending as a team? Yeah, I think all that stuff is reasonable to ask, but I would still be surprised. I think the only thing that I'm not going to pay really any credence to is any Alvin Kamara rumors until it really starts getting real. Yeah. Because it seems like every year, everybody and their mother is trying to trade Alvin Kamara for the Saints. They just have never had any interest in it. That one would be surprising to me.
How do you think it goes on Sunday?
I think it's kind of similar to those first 4 weeks. I think this is a pretty good Patriots team. Not a team that's going to be on the fringe of playoff contention, which is a really good spot for them. And I think the Saints give them a battle, but some of the stuff they do well is stuff the Saints don't do well. Drake May completes a lot of passes. He's a good scrambler. I think that they're going to have a hard time containing that passing attack this week. They're going to have to score points. So, I'm looking at probably realistically in my mind, another kind of hard fought loss. But I think they absolutely can win this game. It's just they need to do some stuff better that they haven't done yet so far.
You can find his stuff on Twitter @ByLukeJohnson. He's with NOLA.com and The Advocate. Will be in the Dome on Sunday for Saints and Patriots with us every single Thursday. Thanks, Luke.
Yep. Good luck to me tonight. All right. We'll see you later, buddy.
Absolutely not. There goes Luke. I hope he has the worst luck he's ever had this evening watching the Brewers lose to the Cubs at Wrigley Field. Appreciate a little bit of time there from Luke. It's a hot rivalry that nobody in sports really knows about, because if you're not watching the Cubs and Brewers annually, but the Cardinals kind of falling by the wayside, and the Reds and the Pirates are always atrocious, and the Cubs and Brewers kind of battle it out. And every single regular season, the Brewers do a lot better than the Cubs. But the postseason has not been very kind to the Brewers, and I'm very, very hopeful that the Cubs can continue that today and then again on Saturday when they'd have to go to Milwaukee and win Game 5. 2-0 hole's not a lot of fun, but they dug out a part of it last night. We'll see if they can do it again coming up tonight. All right, remind you about Segura Farms Premium Angus Beef. They bring you our Thursday shows each and every week. And I usually ask kind of 3 questions about your beef, like how much does it cost, where does it come from, and what does it taste like? Like that's kind of the 3 things, right? Well, the cost is going up all over the place with beef. You realize that when you go buy your beef. It hasn't gone up at Segura Farms in 3 years, and there's no plan for it to go up. They're not rising with prices with the beef market. They've got an amazing amount of inventory. They've got an incredible process over there, and they're continuing to keep their prices steady. Where does it come from? Well, you don't have to ask that question. You go buy your beef wherever you do week to week. You may have to ask that question. Where does it come from? Any steroid use? Any inappropriate antibiotics? You don't have to ask that. It's Segura Farms. It comes from right there. You don't have to ask how many DNA are in that ground beef that you brought home. It's one. It's one cow. It's not mass-produced and stuffed into a pet. No, it's not. It's different. It's a different way to buy your beef. How does it taste? Well, I can tell you that. It's awesome. Ground beef, ribeyes, fillets, flanks, strips, chucks. We had a sirloin last night. It's all fantastic. It is prime, some of the best beef in the country. If you'd like to do beef a different way because you're asking those questions and you don't like the answers where you've been buying your beef, Segura Farms Premium Angus Beef is your answer. I give you Sean's cell phone every single week, and I just invite you to give him a call. Say, hey, I'd like to come out to the farm, like to see your process, and I'd like to bring home a freezer full of premium Angus beef. And Sean is happy to help you out with that. He's at 225-719-1723. Again, 225-719-1723. It's Segura Farms Premium Angus Beef. They bring you our Thursday shows. We'll come back and close it out next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Vaughn and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. If you haven't considered safety in the bathroom, especially for someone who you love who might be aging, consider that. David Vaughn and his team at One Bath and Closets are happy to help. It can be a hazardous situation. You can't eliminate that risk, but you can mitigate against it. Non-slip floors, guardrails in slippery areas, walk-in tubs for convenience and safety, showers with benches that you can sit down. These are the types of things that David Vaughn and his team are happy to do. They do them all the time. If you've never thought about that, well, go to onebathandclosets.com and get that free consultation. Let David come in and chat with you. Tell you what he can do. His team will do it right the first time and leave the competition behind, and that bathroom will be safer than it has been. That's the promise that David will make to you. It's onebathandclosets.com. Get that free consultation. Financing is available. 0% up to 18 months if you qualify. It's One Bath and Closets. Find them online, onebathandclosets.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Segura Farms.
LSU baseball firing up fall practice in terms of a scrimmage in an hour and 40 minutes. If you're knocking off work looking for something to do this afternoon, 4:30, LSU first pitch at the box. They'll be scrimmaging. I don't know who's going to be pitching, but Jay Johnson did confirm today to the local media that Derek Curiel will be playing center field. Chris Stanfield's going to move over to left. Want to look at that? You can head over to the box. The scrimmages are free to enter. They're today, tomorrow, and Sunday. If you're around Baton Rouge and want to go check out some LSU baseball, check out the Twitter feed at LSU Baseball. They'll give you the scrimmage times moving forward this weekend. But I've got a piece up at LouisianaSports.net right now that gives you 3 things to watch for in fall ball for LSU baseball. If you'd like to read a little bit about baseball, you can. It's on the front page, and there's also a tab on LouisianaSports.net, the LSU tab right there where it says teams. You can click on LSU. All LSU content right there, and it's all for free. So I appreciate you all for supporting us over there at LouisianaSports.net. Thursday show is brought to you by Segura Farms Premium Angus Beef. Let's do Take It or Leave It.
Take it or leave it. Take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Presented to you by Flight by Yingling, the next generation of light beer, crafted by America's oldest brewery. Today's hottest stories in sports, news, and sometimes even Hunt's life. The question is, will he take them or leave them?
Flight by Yingling, the next generation of light beer. It's almost tailgate time here in Baton Rouge. If Thursday is your shop and run day, if you stock everything up on Friday, when you get those ice chests getting loaded up, make sure Flight by Yingling is a part of your game day. It is light, it is crisp, it is refreshing, it is delicious. Everything you're looking for in a light beer, including that great beer flavor. 2.6 carbs, 95 calories. Flight by Yingling, the next generation of light beer.
All righty, first one. John Rahm is in the news. Hunt.
Great.
Not for a
Super excited
not for
about
a
it.
good thing as usually is with him. He is playing in the Spanish Open right now.
Great.
And he hit a tee shot on a par 4 into the rough. Was not very happy with the lie, and you
Stunning.
can hear him saying, "What a day, what a day," followed by an explicitive. No surprise there.
Mm-hmm.
The marshal who marked the ball for him said, quote, "It's okay," just trying to maybe give him some encouragement. Rahm immediately looked at him and said, "Don't tell me it's okay, please. Thank you."
Yep.
The marshal apologized, and Rahm continued complaining, "It's not okay. Rahm is a loser. Take it or leave it."
Take it.
I'll take it.
Very rich. Couple major wins. Not, I would guess, ultimately concerned with the thoughts of a lowly Baton Rouge midday radio host.
Probably not.
However, I don't like him.
All right, next one. The Skins game. We mentioned this a couple of months ago. It's going to be coming back from the first time since 1983, and it will feature Tommy Fleetwood, not very liked by us right now.
Mr.
But,
Ladd just absolutely dominated us.
Absolutely dominated us, except for on singles, of course.
Yes.
But Tommy Fleetwood, along with Keegan Bradley, Ryder Cup captain, Justin Thomas, and Xander Schauffele will be the foursome competing in the Skins game. It will be held at Panther National, a nice new track that Thomas and Jack Nicklaus co-designed. Not sure if Thomas had a lot going on with that. But anyways, it's a really nice course in Florida. They're going to be playing the Skins game there. And instead of the normal format, they will all be starting with $1 million, and their fortunes rise or fall with every hole won or lost. The coverage will be at 9 a.m. on the Friday. Is it going to be on Black Friday, I think? Let's see. Yeah, anyways, the Skins game. Take it or leave it.
Leave it.
Just leave it alone.
I just don't think any of us care if Tommy Fleetwood wins $1.4 million or pays $400,000. I don't.
Well, I would assume that they're going to be donating this.
Of course.
But
I just don't. And that's not a lot. They're great golfers, but they're not big personalities. Fleetwood's quiet. Schauffele's very reserved.
JT's got a little bit
of an edge, sure.
Yeah.
And
Keegan Bradley
Keegan's
does.
Goofy.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's just not. Like, I love golf. I watch a ton of golf. That's just not on my radar at all.
Look, it's going to be Black Friday, 9 a.m. Maybe you're waking up after Thanksgiving, got a little bit of a food hangover, and you just throw it on the TV. I mean, I don't know. It's just
I'll
easy to
probably
watch.
be coming in to do this show.
Well, that's very possible. That's true. All right, last one real quick. The Yankees, of course, lost last night. They're out of the playoffs yet again. And Aaron Boone on the hot seat. What do you think? Aaron Boone is going to get fired. Take it or leave it.
I'll leave it. I don't think they fire him. I think you played the Blue Jays pretty tight in the regular season, and then you came up short in the divisional series. You did win a round against the Red Sox. It wasn't a disaster. I understand the standards are high at the Yankees. I think you would have to kind of implode to get fired, and that didn't happen. So we'll see. But Yankees have not won a lot of World Series in the last 15 years. I think they've got one, if I'm not mistaken. So standards are high in the Bronx. I understand that. All right, that's it for Thursday. If you missed any of it, catch it on demand wherever you find your sound. Search Hunt Palmer Show. Like, subscribe, rate, review. Hunt on LSU for your LSU coverage. Hunt on Saints for your Saints coverage. Matt's going to drive you home on AFR. Next, we're back tomorrow for a Football Friday edition. Have a good Thursday, everybody.
The Hunt Palmer Show.